On this presentation is that I'm going to go through the PowerPoint about accelerated resolution therapy. And as y'all have questions, absolutely feel free to throw those in the chat and I'll try my best to keep up with it. And if there's anything that's really pressing, feel free to take yourself off of mute, ask your question, and we can definitely address it. This is going to be a recorded webinar, so you guys can definitely go back and watch it at any point. But if everybody is all good, we will get started. Can y'all all see the PowerPoint? You can thumbs up. Okay. Sweet. Well, I almost said good morning. I wake up way too early. Hello. It is the afternoon, but my name is Devin. I'm one of the therapists here at LMV Counseling, and this is going to be our June webinar, which I decided that we should highlight what the heck is accelerated resolution therapy, because there's so many words and things getting thrown around about it because it's starting to become something that's more new and upcoming. But I get questions asked about it a lot as far as what the heck even is this? And isn't this just EMDR? But as we will see today, that is not the case because there are differences with it. So today, what we're going to be doing, and this will be a bit of a short webinar, about 20 minutes, but we're going to be talking about just what the basics of accelerated resolution therapy are, and you will hear me refer to it as either ART or ART throughout the presentation. We're going to talk about what kinds of things it can be used for in therapy. And then I'll also talk about the similarities and differences between EMDR and ART. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of acronyms that are thrown around today. Bear with me. But then at the end, I'm going to show a little demonstration of how ART works so everybody can get an understanding of it. But before I got started, just wanted to ask, and you can either raise your hand or throw it in the chat or whatever. How many of y'all have heard of what accelerated resolution therapy even is?
I have from my amazing supervisor.
So, well, I appreciate that, Darcy. But yeah, so basically what accelerated resolution therapy is it is a type of therapy that is used to treat, it was primarily developed to treat PTSD, but it is something that we use to target images that are associated with PTSD. So a lot of times, we hear and see about images that are involved in flashbacks or nightmares or things like that. And those images create such a trigger response for people within their bodies and how they behaviorally respond to trauma. So we work on replacing the negative image or the image associated with the trauma with a more positive or a more neutral image. We try to go for more positive because what we see is when we replace the image with a positive image, the response to the trigger either stops completely or it changes to be a healthy response. So I know I also have up here that we work on sensation replacement too. So what I mean by that is whenever we work with somebody and we're targeting that image in the session, we also ask them what's going on in your body right now? That's a therapist's favorite question. And you've probably seen your clients when you ask that, oh crap, here we go again. But it's a really good thing because what it does is we can work on replacing that tightness that might come up, or we work on replacing the the heavy breathing that might come up when we think of an image with something more light, and we can work on relaxing. So when we have those image replacements and sensation replacements paired together, it's a really powerful tool for healing trauma. So ART also uses eye movements. So you've probably heard of, EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And what the eye movements do in ART is it actually allows us to have this avenue for really doing that somatic and visual trauma processing. We can use the butterfly tap that's sometimes used in EMDR. It's usually recommended to do the eye movements because we just have better results with it. But if people, let's say they have vertigo or anything like that, then we can use the tapping as a replacement. And so ART, it also uses what's called a script protocol. So if you ever do the training in it, you will get hit with so many different scripts. And what it is it's just like an outline of the session. And it gives us prompts that we use to guide people through the different steps of therapy. And so we usually start with the image replacement, bringing up that image in the scene and everything. And then we move into, and this is all taking place within a 50-minute session, by the way. And then after we bring up the image and everything, we move into just like a short 5 to 10 minute segment of figuring out, okay, what did this event look like? How did it take place? We work on visualizing that, changing sensations while we're talking about it. And then we also come up with what's called a director scene. So, and I'll try not to throw too many jargon words out there because it can be very intensive. And, this is just a basic overview of it. If you want to do the training, I can definitely tell you where to access that. But we do what's called a director scene, where this is where all the image replacement comes up and people can use their creativity to create like a new imagined scene of, let's say, we wish the trauma went a different way. Yes, it was out of our control, but what if we imagined us responding to it differently, or us responding to the aftermath of it differently? And by doing that, it creates this wonderful avenue in our imagination that we start to remember how we wish it would happen, or how we would want the image to be replaced instead of the original image. And the cool thing with ART is it is a therapy that you see results typically within the first session, or in between the first session and the 5th session. So it's a very fast moving therapy. People, like, they don't have a lot of time to really like sit on something and process it. It's just continuously moving. And so when we see that, we typically see quicker change happen. So what is ART used for, you may ask? It's literally used for almost everything, which is really cool. So like I said, it was originally developed for PTSD, but the creator of the therapy, her name's Lainey, she actually developed script protocols for all kinds of different challenges that we might experience in mental health, substance use, all of the above. So there's actually protocols that are used for OCD, because since we use that image replacement, we also look at how can we kind of do imagined exposure for some of these obsessions and compulsions. And it's really cool because it can have some similarities to ERP, if anyone's familiar with that. But yeah, it's also used for depression, anxiety, used a lot for eating disorders, which is really cool. There's actually a whole entire protocol that was developed for ADHD. It can treat trauma associated with dyslexia. It can also be used to help with helping people have improvements in reading. I remember the first time I saw a dyslexia session, I felt like my mind was blown. It's really cool stuff. It's also used because since we do the sensation replacement and processing, it can be used to help with pain management. I've actually personally used it with a client with this situation, and it was really cool because you saw their pain in the session actually melt for a little bit. It's similar with OCD. We use it for phobias. We use it for substance use, process addictions. It's really a creative tool that you can use for a lot of different things. So some people might be like, wait a minute, isn't this just EMDR? And it's not. It's very similar to EMDR. There's a lot of overlap with it. But what we see with ART is that ART is more directed and guided because we have these script protocols. EMDR has scripts for the phases that are used in treatment, but ART is just very specific in the wording and making sure that like all of that gets used. We also, like I said, big thing is image replacement. With EMDR, we focus a lot on replacing like negative cognitions. We work on replacing those with more positive thoughts about ourselves or the situation. And also too with EMDR, we work a lot on like free association. So whatever comes up is kind of what we go with. With ART, we kind of always bring it back to what we started with. And so there can be rapid results with EMDR. We just might see it being a little bit of a slower approach because there are those 8 phases in EMDR. With ART, it's just you do the script for the session, boom, you're done. You can move on to a new script the next session, or you can continue on with the same issue. It just might look different within the script. And so one thing, this was wild to me when I first learned it, but in ART, you can actually do a full trauma processing session within the first session with meeting someone. So usually, you do your intake, you build some rapport. ART's like, nope, let's throw you in the deep end and let's do it. With EMDR, we see like we did really need to work on developing that rapport, because absolutely, like anytime we're doing trauma therapy, it's good to have. With ART, it just looks different because you're building some of that rapport while you're doing the session. And in EMDR, we do a lot of resourcing, which, if anyone's unfamiliar with that, it's where we create a lot of coping skills and grounding techniques for people that are working towards like getting ready to process their trauma. With ART, some of that resourcing is already kind of built in to the script. So those are the main differences that we see. But does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do next is I am just going to show you like a simple exercise in ART where I'm going to just kind of highlight what the image replacement looks like. So what I'm going to have everybody do is, and I just want you to maybe think of like something that you maybe have dealt with recently that feels like, on a scale from 1 to 10, maybe like a 2 or a 3 of like, this was kind of stressful. I can maybe change something with this, but it's not going to, like send me into panic or anything like that. Maybe more of a mild stressor. But just want you to think about, and you can close your eyes while you do this. Just think about like an image that pops up with that situation. And I'll give you a few seconds to get that. And then I will check back in. Does everybody have their images? Thumbs up. Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you just close your eyes, and you're going to bring that image up in your head. And you can either do the butterfly tapping if you want to, where you like do slow tapping or faster. You can tap on your knees, on the chair, whatever you do, but it's just alternating tapping. So for the next 30 seconds, and I'll tell you when to stop, I just want you to bring this image up and just kind of visualize and see what it looks like in your mind and see how it makes you feel physically. All right. So what I'll have you do now, and no, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. Just kind of see, like, do an inventory of like, okay, how did that bring, or what sensation did that bring up for me? And you'll just kind of keep that in your head. So then what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes. And this time, I want you to imagine like taking an eraser, and you can erase your image from top to bottom, bottom to top. You can erase it however you want to, but just try to erase it until it's gone. And I'll give us a few seconds to do that. And you'll close your eyes and tap while you do this. All right. And then you'll keep your eyes closed. But once your image is erased, and it's okay if it's not completely erased, it might be a little fuzzy. Want you to imagine picking a color of paint and you are just going to paint that color all over where that image used to be. And you'll keep doing it until it's full and it's completely covered. All right. And now that you got your paint on it, I'm going to have you just imagine, like, you know, that old school wallpaper that may have been in your parents' or your grandparents' kitchen growing up? We're going to take an image and we're going to create wallpaper with it. And I want you to imagine taking whatever image you want to replace that old image with. And you're going to turn it into wallpaper and you're going to wallpaper it all over that paint you just put on the image. And just see what it feels like, if it's covering it up. All right. And you can open your eyes now, or if you still need some time, definitely take that for yourself until that image is totally covered up. But now that you've done this, see what that sensation was feeling like from before. Is it different? Has it changed? Is it the same? And this is our time where if anyone wants to take themselves off mute and share, you're more than welcome to. Or if you have anything you want to throw into the chat, you definitely can. But what was everyone's experience like with that? I know it's Monday, y'all. Don't be shy. I believe in you. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we covered today?
I have a question.
Yes.
So as far as using it with clients, related to trauma, like past trauma, or is it still effective with pretty recent traumatic events for clients? Like how fresh off the trauma would be safe to use it?
Yeah. So that's a really good question, actually, because a lot of times, like, I've seen a lot of people get nervous to bring it up and try it with somebody that's had a recent trauma because it's like, oh no, like this is really fresh, like it's still potentially somebody processing through it. That's actually a really good time to do it. So the way that we do ART with that is there's a specific script protocol called the typical day script. And what this looks like is it could be for somebody that maybe they have an ongoing issue. Let's say somebody's in a domestic violence situation. And we use this protocol with them because it's like, hey, it's still ongoing, it's still actively happening. What can we do to protect ourselves and try to heal from some of the things that have happened in the past while we're still actively involved in this situation? And so it's really cool because it gives people tools and they help themselves with kind of coming up with solutions on how they can manage these day-to-day stressors. And when I've used it with people, I've actually seen that they feel like they can handle some of these situations better, especially if they're in an ongoing trauma. Does that answer your question? Yes? Cool. And I saw, Kayla, you threw something in the chat. I appreciate you. You said, I felt more at peace after erasing it and covering up with paint and wallpaper. Yes, it's exactly what we're going for. And most of the time, people, they do say they feel more relaxed, at peace. Sometimes I've gotten people that are like, well, I feel like Jello. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to stand up right now. But yeah, everybody's got different experiences. And sometimes, too, if you're like, there's a little bit left over, that's okay, because we can process through it. But does anyone else have questions or comments? Monday must be Monday and today. But last thing I'll ask is, if anyone wants to throw anything out there, what are y'all's thoughts on accelerated resolution therapy? Like, is this something that's interesting to you? Do you want to learn more about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that there doesn't have to be like you can kind of utilize it straight away and not wait a little bit, but also it seems accessible. You know, where can we find like what an example of the scripts might look like?
So that's the one thing they do, as we all know, with the lovely field that we're in. Sometimes things are behind paywalls. And so there's not, to my knowledge, like released versions of any drafts of the scripts. But what I would say is, if you go on the Accelerated Resolution Therapy website, and it's literally just acceleratedresolutiontherapy.com, and they have some videos on there that'll show like an example of prompts and like what the sessions overall look like. And there's some videos that they've released. I believe there's actually one on there of like what a brief moment of a session looks like. But yeah, unfortunately, the scripts and things are lock and key. The field we live in. Let's see, and Kayla, you said absolutely interested in wanting to learn more. Awesome. Yeah, I totally am open to bringing in more things for the community with it. We actually just had a training in Wilmington for it in April, I believe. So that's an option. Like, they do trainings here, absolutely. Yes, you have to pay for them. And I will say the training is $1,700 for the basic, but you do gain a lot of experience and knowledge within that. And you don't have to get advanced trained in this. You can learn and do everything that you need with the basic training, and you can have a lot of powerful results with it. But I just want to say I appreciate y'all coming and geeking out with me about it for a little bit. Yeah. Ashton, I saw you just said, can we reach out to any questions? Absolutely. I will. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. So in case anybody does need to contact me, or just if you ever just want to nerd out with me and talk about therapy, like, my inbox is open. So just threw that out. And Christina, yes.
Yeah, quick question. Like, so what types of presentation do you find with clients that typically have a hard time working through the scripts? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I will say the most difficult one, and I actually encountered this when I did my training, was I had to work with somebody that has a hard time actually having the mental images pop up. They really were struggling with that visualization piece. And so whenever that happens, like, sometimes I do find myself freezing up a bit because I'm like, oh crap, like, this is exactly the situation that isn't the best for ART. So what I have people do typically is I frame it as, okay, instead of let's like think of an image, we can even just imagine a thought, like a thought you may have had that came up with with the trauma that you've experienced, or even just being like, what emotion comes up and kind of really targeting some of those things. This is where absolutely like EMDR is a better situation for somebody, I think, because yes, in EMDR, we have an image we think of, but we can also target different sensations like taste, smell, all that. And I also forgot to mention too that and I'm trained in both EMDR and ART, and I use them both in session together. Like as you learn it, it's something you can use. So in those situations, I'll sometimes incorporate the EMDR techniques. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. But any other questions, comments, fun facts? All right. Well, since we're good, yeah, I threw my email in the chat, devin@lmvcounseling.com. Hit me up if you ever have any questions or need anything. Oh, thank you, Kayla. I'm glad that it was informative. But yeah, if anybody needs anything from me, y'all know where to find me. But I hope y'all have a great Monday, and thank you so much for hanging out with me. Y'all take care.
Devin, how are you?